Okay, what is it? So this is one of the best iron workers there is. I don't know if you can see me or not. I just turned my phone around. So we're gonna go over it, okay? Everything you want to know about the prana, what it can cut, is right here. As you notice next to it, you need to think about this before using it, because it is possible, okay? So the capacities are all right here. So when you come up to it and you say, okay, I want to punch a hole, well, what you know is you can punch 1 1 1/16 hole in a piece of 3/4 inch plate. So the shear, so that's like flat bar. You guys do a lot of that. You cut a lot of 3/8 by 6 flat bar. It's no problem at all. So that's 6 inches. What's it say? You can cut angle iron. The shear can cut 1 inch thick, 4 inches wide. It can cut 3/4 inch plate, 10 inches wide, and it can cut 5/8 plate, 15 inches wide. So the maximum you can cut for length would be 15 inches or width. Round bar, don't cut round bar on this. And the reason why is that the tendency is to cut anywhere on it. There's only one place to cut round bar, and that's right here. But don't do it. There's another reason we don't do it is we get a lot of strange metal here because we get stuff donated to us. And if we get something that's like tool steel and you put it in there, it's gonna mess up the blade. So nothing round. I'm gonna cross that out. Square. Well, you can, so it says up to 1 inch square. We just want to think of the blade itself and to be careful for it. We don't cut much angle iron, but the possibility is there. I'm sure most of you have seen this. So that's particularly for angle iron. I don't like using it. I would rather use the saw, because what it does is it puts a burr on it that you have to grind off. The saw is a nice, even cut. Another thing you want to notice on this that doesn't get used much. So if you're cutting 5/8 to 1 inch plate, you want to put that there. If you're cutting 5/16 to half, you want to put that there. If you're cutting a 1/16 to 1/4, you want to put that there. So if you notice what happens, so that the hold down goes up and down, so it gets closer. And you can fine tune it as well. So say I'm cutting, well, you shouldn't even need to adjust it, but if you have to, that's what this is for. What it does is it brings that down or back up to fit something underneath. So we're gonna move around. We'll come back there. So this is the nibbler, or notcher. It's good for putting a square edge on something. Another thing I use it for, if I don't want to take the time to water jet something and I want to make a circle, I make the mark of a circle, and I just take pieces out until I got a circle with it, and then take it over there to the belt sander and grind it off smooth. So this would be the back side controller. This would be so you can set the length of a piece, and it adjusts all over the place. What you have to watch out for is that. Kind of sticks out there. I've been known to run into it before. Okay, I spent a little bit of time on this summer, and what I did, if you look at this blade, so it's just bolted on, and the top one is bolted on as well. So what I can do is I can take and turn this. So you can turn that 4 times. Because what happens is on this edge right here, so it gets wore. You know what the biggest wear is on it? When somebody has something with weld on it, and they stick it in there, and it'll take a chunk out of that blade. Because wherever there's a weld, carbon's drawn to that area. And when you put it in that shear, it'll take a chip out of it. Here's another little reminder. And be careful with it. Don't be scared of it, but respect it. Okay, this is the brake. So you can set this to brake, like say you want whatever kind of bend. As long as you're using the same material, if you set the blade, it'll do the same thing, one after another after another. You can do hundreds of the same bend. So that makes it kind of handy. So then we have the punch. I set the punch up, not you. If this is not exactly lined up in this one don't look too bad. Sometimes there's little chips on it. It's because it wasn't lined up correctly. Or maybe this wasn't tightened in enough and it was loose. And if it doesn't exactly meet, so you should have a little bit of a gap all the way around the edge, but it needs to be even all the way around. So that's for punching holes. Now this, not a lot of you have seen, but what it is, so if you look at it, 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches Schedule 40 pipe. So that's what this pipe is right here. So you put that on there and you cut. So what it does is it takes a notch out of it, and then you put that notch on another piece of pipe. That's of course the wrong size, but it'll fit right on there and it'll make a nice weld all the way around. So it is a handy tool if you're making something out of pipe. So the biggest dangers, being as this is a safety meeting, we'll go back over this machine again. So the biggest danger of this machine is right here. That piece of rubber is what will get you. So when you're using the Piranha, no material should be past right here. In other words, if you're shoving something underneath to cut it, wrong. Because what will end up happening, if you look down inside of here, that will flip that piece up. And what it does is it spreads this away from this. And then it ends up messing up not only the blade, but the machine itself. It has to be reset. So if it doesn't have one end being held down with the hold down, right there, hold down, and don't cut it. You can't cut it any smaller than that, than right here, which is it's probably about 3 or 4 inches. No, it's probably 4 inches. So that's as little as you can cut. Go cut it someplace else if you need more. You can take it on the nibbler. So this machine is set up for one person, and there's a reason why, because it's doing 2 things at the same time. So when this end's going down, this end's going up. When this end's going up, that end's going down. So if you're leaning, I think even one of the questions in the piranha, in the safety test, that should always be down. And if you're leaning your arm here and somebody's bending something on the other side, there's a good chance you're going to get bit. And that is not a forgiving bite. The other danger of the piranha is if you're back here, you just cut some material and somebody else is cutting. If you notice on this thing, look at the floor. The floor's all chipped up from metal falling on it. Well, if something falls on your hand, it's gonna hurt. Right here, this is UHMW, which is a hard plastic. Well, it's all scarred up from metal falling off on it. So you wanna make sure nobody's cutting anything when you're back here picking up material. The other thing that I've seen is when you bend something, to have your finger on top, like when you're holding it. Because when it bends up, it could potentially squish your finger. So we want to be careful with that. The other thing is when you're cutting a piece of material, I'm going to grab one. So when you're cutting a piece of material, you don't want to get your finger underneath here. Because when that hold down comes down, it's going to squish your finger. Depending on how thick the material is, it'll be the severity of your fingers getting squished. So if you had a piece of 16 gauge, it's probably not going to hurt you. It's probably just going to bend right in here. But this is 1/8 inch, and when that thing comes down, it's not very forgiving. If your finger's underneath there, it's going to get squished. So again, you're putting something in. That's as short as you can cut that piece, okay? Now, if you see that hole right there, so this bar used to be right here. It's because the blade was wore on the other side. So I moved it back now because we have a nice sharp blade again. So that's the safety of the piranha. And we'll go over the controls in another video. So, biggest danger, danger, danger. I'll bend this so you can see. So if your finger's right here, it's gonna get squished. So that's more than a 90, so I would have to adjust if I want that 90 degree. Danger. Don't be behind there when somebody's cutting. Danger. Be careful when you're walking by, because that will get you. Or if you bend down to pick up a piece of steel and you stand back up and bonk your head. So, that would be the safety on the piranha. Remember this. It is possible, so you want to be careful.